दर्शन देखने का तन सो तेरा था, मन बैराग भया दर्शन देखने का तन सो तेरा था, तन सो तेरा था। मन बैराग भया दर्शन देखने का तन सो तेरा था, तन सो तेरा मन बैराग भया। तिचर बसे सुहेलड़ी जिचर साथी लाल, तिचर बसे सुहेलड़ी जिचर साथी लाल, जा साथी उठी चलिया ता तन खाकुनाल, जा साथी उठी चलिया मन बैराग भया दर्शन देखने का तन सो तेरा था, तन सो तेरा मन बैराग भया दर्शन देखने का तन सो तेरा था, तन सो तेरा जिचर बसया कंत कर जियो जियो सब कहात, सारे जिचर बसया कंत कर जियो जियो सब कहात, जिचर बसया कंत कर जियो जियो सब कहात, जिचर बसया जा उठी चलसी कंतड़ा ता कोई न पूछे तेरी बात, जा उठी चलसी कंतड़ा ता कोई न पूछे तेरी बात, सो तेरा था, धन सो तेरा मन बैराग भया, दर्शन देखने का चाह, धन सो तेरा था, धन सो तेरा। पेयण शव सेव तू, सावरण सुख बस, पेयण शव सेव तू, सावरण सुख बस, गुर मिल जज आचार सिख, तुद कदे जज आचार सिख, तुद कदे न लगे दुख, मन बैराग भया, दर्शन देखने का चाह, धन सो तेरा था, धन सो तेरा। सबना साहोरे वंजना, सब मुगलावन हार, नानक धन सुहागणी, जिन सिर नाल प्यार, नानक धन सुहागणी, जिन शहनाल प्यार, मन बैराग भया, दर्शन देखने का चाह, धन सो तेरा था, धन सो तेरा था, मन बैराग भया।
बदला चलू क गया, बदला चलू क गया, मेरी आँखियाँ ना पानी भी सूख गया, पानी भी सूख गया, चंदा बिरारा के बदला चलू क गया, बदला चलू क गया, मेरी आँखियाँ ना पानी भी सूख गया, पानी भी सूख गया, मुक गई सारी रात वे होई बर्बाद है, तू अज भी नहाया की करा
Welcome to today's satsang. Hi. So today's Shabad is by Poonam ji. Title is Mat Kar Maya Ka Ahankar, meaning don't be deluded by Maya. Then Michael will give us an introduction. Then I will be reading from the Path of the Masters, the book. Topic is creation and order of the universe. And then we'll have a short dance session. Then we'll play Master's YouTube video, and then we'll do group meditation with love and devotion. Thank you so much. We should start with the Shabad now.
Good evening, everyone. I am Poonam, and today I am going to sing one of my favorite bhajan from Kavir ji Sahib. Title of the bhajan is Mat Kar Maya Ko Ahankar. Let's remember our beloved master while listening to this bhajan. The meaning of this bhajan goes like this: Don't be deluded by Maya. Don't take pride in the body. It's as fragile as clay, like a drop of dew, a blast of wind, just a little gust, and the body will turn to dust. There was a stone king, famed among nations. Elephants swayed in his court, like a drop of dew. The clay lamp was filled with oil. From it, this blade unfurled. The light burns in the lamp like a drop of dew. The clay lamp ran out of the oil. The place scattered. The light went out in the lamp like a drop of dew. O you dear one, precious and beloved, how you will feel when death takes you away. Death will take you away. Like a drop of dew. Mother, father, an illusion. Family ties, illusion. Moaning, beating your chest, illusion. Like a drop of dew. Says Bhavani Nath, my Guru laid his hand on my head. Liberation is mine, like a drop of dew. मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, कायागार सी कांची। मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, काया गार से कांची। हो कायागार से कांची, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती। झटका पवन का लग जाएगा, झपका पवन का लग जाएगा, काया धूल हो जासी। हो कायागार से कांची, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती। झटका पवन का लग जाएगा, झपका पवन का लग जाएगा, काया धूल हो जासी। ऐसा सख्त था महाराज जिनका मुल्कों पर राज, जिन घर झूलता हाथी। ऐसा सख्त था महाराज जिनका मुल्कों पर राज, जिन घर झूलता हाथी। ओ जिन घर झूलता हाथी, ओ जैसे ओसरा मोती, मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, काया धूल हो जासी। भरियो सिंधड़ा मा तेल, जहाँ से रच्यो है सब खेल, जल रही दिया की बाती। भरियो सिंधड़ा मा तेल, जहाँ से रच्यो है सब खेल, जल रही दिया की बाती। हो जल रही दिया की बाती, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती, मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, काया गार सी काची। हो कायागार से काची, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती, झटका पवन का लग जाएगा, झपका पवन का लग जाएगा, काया तेरी धूल हो जासी। झूठा माई थारा बाप, झूठा सकल परिवार, झूठी कूटता छाती। झूठा माई थारा बाप, झूठा सकल परिवार, झूठी कूटता छाती। ओ झूठी कूटता छाती, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती, मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, काया गार सी काची। हो कायागार से काची, हो जैसे ओसरा मोती, झटका पवन का लग जाएगा, झोंका पवन का लग जाएगा, काया तेरी धूल हो जासी। बोल्या भवानी हो नाथ, गुरु ने सिर पे रखियो हाथ, जिससे मुक्ति हो जासी। बोल्या भवानी हो नाथ, गुरु ने सिर पे रखियो हाथ, जिससे मुक्ति हो जासी। हो जिससे मुक्ति हो जासी, हो जिससे मुक्ति हो जासी। मत कर माया का अहंकार, मत कर काया का अभिमान, काया गार सी काची। Thank you, everyone. Good
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to satsang. So nice to see all of you. We all gather here in the name of truth to purify our heart with satsang. For satsang is one of the tools prescribed by all the saints and masters since time began. When two or more gather in my name, there I am. And when we gather in the name of truth, in the name of the perfect ones who came in our life, then their grace descends on us, and purity, their values, their qualities becomes our qualities slowly, slowly. We become like them. More purity is added on us. Every day we gather together in the name of the perfect ones. So it's a big grace. Yesterday I said we are the disciples of the grace of the grace. But then Master sent me yesterday something while I was reading that no, there is three graces that the disciple has. And the first grace is that we have been given the human body. We are not a cat or a dog or a plant. We have been given the human body. The second grace is that we have been initiated by a perfect living master. And he added treasures in our bank account. When we got initiated, we had treasures being added by the perfect one in our godly bank account. And guess what is the third grace? Can anybody think of? Try to guess what's the third grace before I say it. I'll give you 2 seconds. Okay, so the third grace is the grace we have on our own self. That is the third grace, the grace we have on our own self to reap, to come to the door of where the treasure has been deposited in our bank account, and to cash the treasure, to cash the treasure. And this is the third grace, the grace that we have on our own self. So every time we meditate, every time we think of Master, every time we connect with the holy light and the holy sound, every time we do selfless service in the mission of God or in this world with nothing, with no ambition in return, not to have anything in return, just a pure selfless service, then we are reaping reaping the benefit of the human life, reaping the benefit of the second grace, which is the initiation of a perfect living master. That the treasure has been deposited in our bank account, and all what we have to do is to reap it. I wanted to thank Punam for her beautiful shabd. Her shabd was so wonderful. And it is, don't be deluded by Maya. Don't be deluded by Maya was Punam's shabd, and her voice is so godly and so beautiful. And we appreciate that beautiful seva. Thank you, dear sister. And in the shabd it says, don't be deluded by Maya. And there is always a conversation happening inside of us between our lower self, the mind, and our higher self, God in us. And the God in us is telling us, why are you trying to put a dark cloud over your head? And then our lower self has all these reasoning and answers. And it says, well, you said it's all a show. And if it's all a show, then so what? I just want to enjoy. And then the higher self says, no, listen, even though it's a show, but Baba Sawan Singh said that if we don't control our mind, we could sit hours and hours in meditation, but we won't find the beloved inside of us. The mind has to be controlled. And within this show, there is a time controlled by the disciple, and then the disciple reaps the benefit, the highest benefit of finding the inner master. As only pure at heart are the ones that shall see God, pure at heart. So this is the gist of that shabd, is that don't be deluded by Maya. And we have to always watch out, really. We have to always watch out that power that works against us to take us towards suffering is very, very great power. It's a very great power, and it's below the power of God, and it's always trying to take us towards misery, depression, suffering for a few moments of enjoyment. And that is when the time comes that we beg the Master. Even even Sheikh Farid, in his poetry, he said, "Black is my cloth, black my raiment. Full of low qualities I am, yet the people address Farid the sinful as dervish." So it is like all the saints and masters had also that conversation going inside their head in this whole big show of creation between in the creation of duality between the positive and the negative. There is a play of creation, and that play of creation, the gist of it is to walk towards the light. Walk towards the light. And when we walk towards the light, then suffering cannot touch us. As the Shabd that my brother Anup, he chose a very beautiful Shabd. And in the Shabd, it said that good student on the path of truth, on the path of the masters, the good student, the obeying student, suffering cannot touch that student. That if we stick with the commandments of the master, then suffering cannot touch us. But yes, there is always the other power working on us, and we have to be careful. We have to be careful. So in this creation, it is like a prism, like light passes through a prism, splaying into a million fragments, and whose what was one became many. What became many becomes one again. If we if we through no virtue of our own are given something extraordinary and transforming, our loving duty is not only to cherish, but to ensure that it endures by sharing. So that is what we do in satsang. We share the teachings of Guru Nanak. We share the teachings of Saint Kabir and Baba Sawan Singh. Um, this is how we cherish it. Not only we cherish it, but we make sure that it goes to the next generations, to the coming generations by sharing those teachings the way they were taught by the perfect ones. Because we are all one, regardless of creed or color. We are all interconnected. And once the boundaries between self and over self are dissolved, then we find our true self, our luminous self, and that luminous self is born to serve. That luminous self, our eternal self, when we discover it, we discover that we are all connected, luminous, and we are born to serve. That is something very, very beautiful, very beautiful. I found yesterday two beautiful uh, allegories of the seeking of the soul, of the seeking of the soul, and I wanted to share them with you. Two quick stories. Let me share them 1 second. Whoa. The first one, is the story of the moth going towards the flame. And I found it in one of the initiates of Sant Kirpal's books. And it says, the seeker moth at the edge, poised in flight, a creature intoxicated with wonder and ardor, in the presence of what lives and ultimately dies for. Its death is not really death, but a transformation of consciousness. I love that word, transformation of consciousness. A phoenix rising triumphant from its own ashes. This is what happens. This is the allegory, the hidden meaning of the seeking of the soul. that we go towards the light, and that light consumes us, and we become the light. We are annihilated in the light, and we are transformed. Transformed, our consciousness is transformed, and we rise triumphant from our own ashes. That what we are now, which is a combination of mind, body, intellect, and soul. And our mind is full of the five enemies, the vices: lust, greed, attachment, ego. Uh, they all engulf our mind, and our soul is pristine, and our soul always wants to go home. Always wants to go home. The mind wants to go the other way, but the soul wants to go to its true home. And this is the annihilation of the soul. When we become nothing, that means have been transformed into the highest. When we This is the merger of the drop into the ocean of love. This was one story, and then there was a beautiful another story of the hoopoe bird. And this is also from his name is Alan. He's an initiate of Alan Stevens. He's an initiate of Sant Kirpal, and he drew this. And this is the story of the hoopoe bird. The hoopoe bird was a very humble bird, and it gathered thousands of birds. It convinced thousands of birds to gather together, and they all wanted to go on a pilgrimage to find the king of birds, the Sumrug, the king of birds. And on their journey, as thousands gathered to go find the king of all the birds, only 29 reached the goal. The rest dropped out. And this allegory, this story just shows us that out of thousands who start the journey of the holy light and the holy sound, only very few reach. Jesus even said, "Straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to life. However, very people shall find it. Very few shall find it." And that very few find the kingdom of God and find the land of bliss and the land of joy. So when the hoopoe reached and found the King of Kings, the Sumreg, he was lost looking in his eyes. He was lost looking in his eyes. And when he was lost looking in the King of the Bird's eyes, then he found his own reflection. He found his own reflection, which is our higher self. That once we complete the journey towards God, then we find ourselves as God. That there is no difference between God and us. That this is the whole allegory of this beautiful story of the hoopoe, is that when he reached the King of Kings and he looked into the eyes of the King of Kings, he was lost in the eyes of the King of Kings. He was lost in that bliss, and he found his own self, that the King of Kings is his own self. This is just the journey of transformation of consciousness, transformation of consciousness, increasing of our awareness day after day after day. We increase our awareness till it becomes the same as the awareness of God. So somebody has to be muted. So these are the stories I wanted to share with you. And before I finish, I wanted to read to you some beautiful poetry of Saint Kabir, and that's the last thing that I would read from the poetry, because it's over, and then I will share the source with all of you so you can enjoy it. Um, and just like a couple of poems. And it says, oh friend, dear heart of mine, think well. If you love indeed, then why do you sleep? If you have found him, then give yourself utterly and take him to you. Why do you lose him again and again? If the deep if the deep sleep of rest has come to your eyes, why waste your time making the bed and arranging the pillows? Kabir says, I tell you, the ways of love even though the head itself must be given. Why should you weep over it? That's the same thing as I was telling you about the two stories, that we have to give our head ultimately. Whoever we are has to be demolished, and we have to rise as the phoenix from the ashes, triumphant from the ashes. And Kavir is saying, don't weep over your head because you're going to become God. So let me read another poem. The Lord is in me, the Lord is in you. As life is in every seed, O servant, put false pride away and seek for him within you. A million suns are ablaze with light. The sea of blue spreads in the sky. Wow. The sea of blue spreads in the sky. The fever of life is stilled, and all stains are washed away. And all stains are washed away when I sit in the midst of that world. Hark means listen. Hark to the unstruck bells and drums. Take your delight in love. Rains pour down without water, and the rivers are streams of light. One love it is that pervades the whole world. Few there are who know it fully. They are blind who hope to see it, but the light of reason, that reason which is the cause of separation. The house of reason is very far away. How blessed is Kabir that amidst this great joy he sings within his own vessel. It is the music of the meeting of soul with soul. It is the music of forgetting of sorrows. It is the music that transcends all coming in and all going forth. Wow, this is a great, great poem. And he's describing the kingdom of God, such kind, how there are rains without clouds and streams of light and the music, the unstruck music of bells and all harp and vina. Beautiful poem. Okay, the month of March draws near. Ah, who will unite me to my lover? How shall I find words for the beauty of my beloved? He is merged in all beauty. His color is in all the pictures of the world, and it bewitches the body and the mind. Those who know this know what is this unutterable play of the spring. Kabir says, listen to me, brother. There are not many who have found this out. Just what I was saying, that very few find the truth, the ultimate truth. And then there is another poem. Oh, by the way, spring is one of my favorite. And Kabir in this poem is talking about the spring, how life comes out in the spring and all beauty. It's like God is at his fullness. Okay, another poem. O Narad, I know that my lover cannot be far. When my lover wakes, I wake. When he sleeps, I sleep. He is destroyed at the root who gives pain to my beloved. Where they sing his praise, there I live. When he moves, I walk before him. My heart yearns for my beloved. The infinite pilgrimage lies at his feet. A million devotees are seated there. Kavir says, the lover himself reveals the glory of true love. Wow. Oh my God, that poem is so delicious. The infinite pilgrimage lies at his feet. At the feet of the perfect master, the infinite pilgrimage lies. Wow. Okay, another poem. Of true love, hang up the swing of love today. Hang the body and the mind between the arms of the beloved. In the ecstasy of love's joy, bring the tearful streams of the rainy clouds to your eyes. Wow. In the ecstasy of love's joy, bring the tearful streams of rainy clouds to your eyes and cover your heart with the shadow of darkness. Bring your face nearer to his ear and speak of the deepest longings of your heart. Kabir says, listen to me, brother. Bring the vision of the beloved in your heart. This was the end of the songs of Kabir's poetry. I enjoyed them so much and I enjoyed reading them to you. And, and thank you, Master, for all the blessings. And now, Vinaya, I'm looking forward for Dear Vinaya.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for such beautiful poems. Okay, so board of cosmogony of master, that is inner experience of medium. Can you tell? Okay, so the world is more or less familiar with the class of phenomena known as spiritualism. It is manifested through mediums. The inner experiences of mediums must be noted here. Many prominent men and women have lent themselves to the most searching investigations of these experiences. The world is full of mediums and half mediums of all grades and conditions, some good and questionable. Some of them produce the most astounding phenomena, while others turn out to be little more than pretenders. Taking the genuine production of mediums, let us analyze them very briefly in the light of the master's knowledge. They alone know the facts, and it is highly important that some of those facts concerning mediumistic phenomena should be told. In the first place, mediumship is a misfortune. It is not a gift as some claim, nor it is a development. It is a misfortune. Its processes are destructive to the best interest of the medium. It is closely allied to hypnotism and destructive psychological process, destructive to both victim and operator. No matter if it is used to try to cure disease, it is nevertheless destructive. The net result are a distinct moral and psychological loss to both parties. Mediumship is a species of hypnotism performed by disembodied spirits upon the sensitive medium. Even so-called automatic writing and alloyed phenomena, which are believed by spiritualists to be quite free from all hypnotic obsessions, are nevertheless a partially subjective process. If practiced for a long time, they lead to complete obsession. Mediumship is a breaking down process, never developing or upbuilding. The medium always remains under the control of her guide. She can see nothing, hear nothing, and do nothing except just what her controls wish her to do so. She is in no sense an independent actor. She is only their instrument. The underlying principle of evil in the process of mediumship and hypnotism is that no person can be controlled by another intelligence without injury. Therefore, no one should ever be subjected to the control of anyone else. The only way that any intelligence can ever develop itself is to have freedom to assert itself. Secondly, the result of mediumship are not always reliable or dependable. They may or may not be true experiences. Her message may or may not be based upon the facts. Her predictions are not reliable. Sometimes they come true, but more often they do not. The writer is speaking here from abundant experience with mediums of all sorts. Thirdly, the medium's guide or controls are generally of a low order of intelligence, often from the ranks of the worldly minded and passionate mob, but seldom of any high order of intelligence or moral character. This is lamentable fact, now becoming more and more recognized by all who visit the senses of mediums. If some dear relative or noble character of history is supposed to be one of the control, it is never certain. But the medium is being imposed upon, even if she herself is not trying to impose upon her seaters. She is not in position to detect the fraud because she can only see what her guides wish her to see. And last of all, the mediumistic contacts are the subtle planes below the astral, sometimes much below, where a lower class of spirits are to be contacted. There are many subplanes far below the true astral zone, and it is to some of these that most people pass the true astral zone, and it is to some of these that the most people pass immediately after death. There they linger for their allotted time. The pure astral plane is very high and refined when compared with the lower regions, and it is only a very high class of people who go there at the time of their death. This fact may be understood when it is known that most of the founders of the world religion, great yogis and mahatmas known to history, are still within the limits of astral region, and up to this day have not been able to go beyond them. If they cannot go further beyond the astral plane, how can we expect an ordinary man or women to go beyond them? What multitudes which no man can number of all sorts and conditions of soul inhabit those planes and subplanes lying between the earthly and the pure astral. Most of them will never see the astral until they return for a new birth and then practice concentration under the direction of a master. It is no small achievement to attain the pure astral region. It, its capital is the famous city of the thousand petaled lotus. Mediums talk on the astral plane, but as a matter of fact, very few mediums, if any, ever get a glimpse of the pure astral region. Have you ever heard of a medium who even claimed to have seen the mountain of light called the Sahasradal Kaval? I have never known one who had even heard of it. That is proof positive that they had never entered the astral zone. If they had, they could not fail to mention this, the most conspicuous feature of all astral worlds. Their fields of observations lie far below the astral in one or more of the numberless subplanes, some of which are only a fraction above the earth plane, barely invisible to physical eye. Roaming about through these subplanes are that vast multitudes of souls whom we speak of as earthbound. Out of that number, a few appear to men occasionally as ghosts. It must be kept in mind that higher level spirits will never take any part in the practice of mediumship. They know it is not a wholesome thing. Besides, they live on a plane far above the beyond anything ever contacted by mediums. We must never believe their stories when they tell us that some great historical characters, a fond father or mother, or some world benefactor has come to hold communication through a medium or to act as a guide or control. Now, what is the difference between the inner experience of the mediums and those of the masters? All differences in the world, while those of the mediums are subjective, controlled by others. The inner experience of the masters are constructive. They are always under the control of the master himself. The master is never controlled by anyone. What he sees and hears by his own power and in his own right. He does not need or accept the help of anyone. He rises freely and by his own powers to any one of the subtle plane or worlds whenever he so wills. When he has arrived there, he goes about at will, explores explores those regions to his own satisfaction and returns to the physical plane whenever he wishes. Moreover, while sojourning in any of those higher regions, the master is acknowledged lord of those regions. And this is so because he represents the Supreme One wherever he goes. And he has all the power to go where he pleases and do what he wishes. If the master wishes to leave this earth plane, he simply concentrates and by his own will leaves the body and goes up to whatever subtle world he may wish to visit. Arriving there, he visits with the inhabitants there, look over the country, and then returns here when he chooses. The going and coming are not difficult for him, no more than stepping from one room to another here. And he remembers his experiences while up in those higher worlds, although it is often very difficult for him to tell about them on account of a lack of sufficient language and mental imagery. Thus, the master goes and comes at his own will and keeps in touch with any and all the higher worlds, just as he may wish to do. When he works here, when his work here is finished, he simply steps out of his body and leaves it. Thank you so much.
Vinaya, we enjoyed your reading very much. Thank you. Um, so I wanted to read, since we have a little time, I wanted to read to you a couple of things. This guy, initiate of Sant Kirpal, wrote a letter to Sant Kirpal and said, um, Master, do I have a lot of bad karma to work off? And then Sant Kirpal answered, every initiate has a lot of karma to be worked off during physical existence. The terminology of good or bad karma cannot be adequately justified, as both entail some debts requiring fair liquidation. Suffice it to note that the decrees of heaven are subject to no error, and the divine dispensation is invariably flavored with mercy. The inner, rare bliss from regular and devoted meditations changes the entire outlook of the initiate when he/she finds the gracious hand of the master protecting him/her at every step. You should know it for certain that everything whatsoever comes to your counting is definitely to your spiritual progress, and you should gladly withstand the trials and tribulations of this life by reposing your hopes and aspirations in the gracious master power overhead. Isn't that such a powerful letter that it's just saying that every moment after initiation, every moment of our life is under the guidance of the master? That after initiation, every moment we go through, all our karma, all this show that we go in, ups and downs, pleasures and pains, are under the protective guide of the master. And it is all just debts fairly being liquidated. That's what master said. That it's all debts. There is no good or bad. It's just payments that we are going through of good and bad. Anyway, I wanted to read to you this. Let me see. Oh yeah, we have a little bit more time. I wanted to read to you something else. Bibi Raj just sent it to me. Is he, Raj, are you here? I don't know. I told her to join, but I don't know if she joined. But she sent this to me, so I thought, and it's a godly coincidence, of course, because I was reading about this guy, Aaron Stevens, and he's an initiate of Sant Kirpal. I was looking at his profile in Facebook. I was so impressed. I fell in love with Sant Kirpal in him, you know. and he is a painter. Those two painting, that painting I showed you of the hoopoe bird, that was from him. But he wrote this, and so since I didn't read it, but since Bibi Raj sent it, there must be something good in it. And okay, there is a wonderful naturalness about the master's satsang discourses in his native language of Hindi, Punjabi, and Urdu. Although also he speaks impeccable English, from an inexhaustible store of wisdom and truth, he creates and relates homely parables drawn from everyday life, beautifully weaving them into spiritually charged lessons for the gatherings, ranging from a handful of disciples to vast, sprawling, attentive audiences of 20,000 or more, who assemble on the sanctified ashram grounds or wherever the master happens to go, even if one cannot understand the language. He cannot understand the universal language of the eyes. In this regard, Master once said, more than 75% of Master's teachings comes through the eyes. The remaining one-fourth is through the word of mouth. Given below are the glimpses from one of the sublime discourses of the Satguru. Shortly after I arrived in India, it was translated from the original Hindi and jotted down on the spot. Evening Satsang, January 28, 1967. If we realize that death is certain, then there will be a change in our life. We must remain attentive in meditation. If not, the mind will think of others and judge. If not, the mind will think of others and judge their actions, criticizing, etc. Instead of the good actions of others, we take their bad actions to be our guiding factor. If you see the bad qualities of others, you will become those bad qualities. Wow. If you see the bad qualities of others, you will become those bad qualities. As you think, so shall you become. God has said, He is my loveliest child who sees me in others. Thoughts are very potent. You should see the good qualities of others rather than the bad qualities. We must, you must, you must have a sweet tongue. It should not injure the feelings of others. You want to love God, yet curse others in whom God resides. Injuring the feelings of others is a great sin. It is the sin of the highest degree. If you have to face a person with such a bad qualities, get on one side rather than face him. Analyze yourself and see your own shortcomings instead of seeing the shortcomings of others. Who are to take out the shortcomings of others? It is easy, it is easy to seek God, but very difficult to mend yourself. If you realize that God resides in others, would you want to hurt them? One, one by one, you should give your shortcomings. One by one, you should give up your shortcomings. This is why I insist on all initiates keeping a diary. If a man who won't give up his evil ways of hurting others, why should you depart from your sweet ways of helping others? If you must observe others, then observe their virtuous qualities. There are shortcomings in all, but also good qualities. Swamiji says, I give you a tip. If you want to see shortcomings, then look in your own self. If you want to see virtues, then see them in others. Listen to what I say and take heed. If not, you will be sorry, and then it will be too late in the day. I have selected the best piece, sorry. I have selected the best piece of advice for you. Now it is up to you to follow it. God has given us this tongue to remember Him and not to hurt the feelings of others. Wow, so beautiful, so beautiful. Okay, so now we can do 5 minutes of meditation and prepare ourselves for our Holy Father, Ishwar Puri Ji, who gave us all showers, oceans of grace, and is pulling us to where He is now, towards God and the kingdom of God. All what we have to do is look at Him, keep our head towards His direction, and everything shall be okay in our lives. Okay, so 5 minutes of meditation. Thank you, Master, for the seva.
Because at the top, there is no second. Therefore, a perfect living master whom we meet here in a physical body is not really a person like ourselves trying to do things for himself or for us. He is ourself as an experience generated by ourselves in this physical world. If we understand that the experiences we have here are generated from within, not from outside, And again we have heard this thing. In fact, Swami Vivekananda, great Swami, in his own right, when he came to USA, Chicago, he came to Chicago more than 120 years ago. And by chance, the time was when there was a World Congress of Religions going on. And he spoke there. And he said, this world is illusion. We are creating it. It does not exist by itself. By the way, yesterday some scientists also proved physics. On the quantum basis, they say there is no objective reality. Yesterday, the news came up. No objective reality. It's all subjective based on the observer. Quantum physics is bringing them close to spirituality. Now, Vivekananda says, everything is being created from inside. It's all inside, it's projected. We think sense perceptions are seeing, they are generating the experience they are seeing. They are generating the experience and exercising the perception at the same time. It's all Maya, illusion, mithya. Finish. When you die, it finishes. Second day he spoke again. He said, if everything that you are seeing is unreal, illusion, then I must also be illusion. You are seeing me also. Then how come I, an illusion, is trying to tell you something when I am also unreal? He said, this unreality that you are watching here is different from the unreality you watch elsewhere. That you take as real, this you take as real, but I am telling you this is not real. Other things tell you we are real. This unreality is bringing you to reality by saying go within, not saying come out. What's the difference between a teacher and perfect living master? A teacher tells us a method to do something. A perfect living master says, go within yourself. To find who? To find him. A perfect living master says, I am not outside what you are seeing. You want to see me, go within. His whole emphasis is that you discover my reality, which you're seeing outside. I'm just like yourself outside. I'm born like us. I die like you. I eat food like you. I fall sick like you. I'm no different as a human being. As a physical body, there's no difference at all. Difference is only in the awareness that this is a picture being drawn from within yourself. I am there. So perfect living masters help us to go within, and the little experience of love we felt outside, which is not easily explained, becomes deeper inside. Every stage we go, we find they are there. That is why the difference between us, as ordinary human beings, and a perfect living master is that they are operating from within ourselves as our true self, our own self. When we reach the top, we discover it was our own self made the arrangement in physical body at a certain time of our experience. When we are tired of the creation to go back home, we made the arrangement ourselves to generate a person who will be like an ordinary person, will pull us. It's our own arrangement for the self to pull us up. This discovery is only made by us when we reach the top. So we have ourselves made the arrangement. After all, why did we come into this world? If our own place must be a lovely place to live in. Everybody says real anand, real joy, real happiness, real bliss is only available there in our true home. That's where we were living. What made it necessary for us to come into this physical world of duality and suffering and pain and pleasure? All these things are happening here, and we feel it's more painful than pleasurable simply because of the nature of time. When it's pleasurable, time flies quickly. When it's painful, time slows down. So even if we're equal, even if pleasure and pain were equal in this world, we'd feel more pain. Why did we come here? There must be some good reason for this creation to take place and for us to live in state of great bliss, to leave that state and come here. The answers to this question are very strange. First answer is, we never left our home. The whole experience is taking place there only. Because our home, our true home, is total, is complete. If it is God, it's complete. If it is truth, it's complete. If it is Sachkhand, it's complete. It's total. Whatever it is, if it's consciousness, it's total. That means there is nothing outside of it. If nothing is outside of it, then this must also be part of it. What has happened is we have not left our home at all. We never left it. We just left the awareness of it and picked up other awarenesses. It's like a dream. When we have a dream, we think we have gone somewhere. We wake up, we discover we went nowhere. The dream created a space and time where we go. Same thing is happening here. This is like a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. That's what the real nature is of creation. And the methods of meditation we talk of are merely triggering ourselves to wakefulness. Just triggers for wakefulness to get to higher levels of awareness. And when we discover our total awareness, we discover we never left our home, we left the awareness. Why did we leave awareness even? If we were in a state of happiness and bliss, why did we leave that? To understand that, we can speculate that what is consciousness? What makes us aware and makes us conscious of the world or of ourselves? If we look at the nature of consciousness, we find that consciousness is operating in a way, if it is fed with two opposite views, it appreciates one of the views better. For example, we see light here. Supposing there was no darkness, we would not even know if there is light here. But when we see darkness and see light, we appreciate light. The world of duality, the world of pairs of opposites, generates this conscious experience that you appreciate. The word is appreciation. You appreciate the positive side more if you have seen the negative side. And we have this experience all the time in this life. If you have seen something negative, then we see the positive, we appreciate it more. Is it possible that we generated a world of pairs of opposites to have an experience, a greater appreciation of our own experience of a world with no opposites at all? A non-dual world, which is our true world, is being appreciated by us by generating an experience only, not generating a real world, generating an experience of a dual world. When we look at it from that point of view, it justifies the creation of this universe as merely a means to greater appreciate our permanent true experience of our true home, where we always had the experience. We generate an awareness of duality merely to have the experience of the non-dual. That's a great rationale for saying why the world was created, why we are here. We are here for the same reason, to appreciate. There is a book by one of the well-known mystics, Kavir. Kavir writes a book called Anurag Sagar, Ocean of Love. It's a dialogue between him and a disciple of his, Dharmdas. Dharmdas asks, why were we created? And he gives in story form. He says it cannot be described, but I'll make it like a story. So when he makes a story of creation, there in that book he says that there are souls who are still living in our true home. And then there are us who have come here, who are souls who have come into the experience of duality. And he says those souls he calls bunts. And the souls who have come here, when they return, he calls them hunts. He says when the Hans, who have had experience of creation, when the Hans return to the true home, the Bunch says, you are dancing even more than us. You are rejoicing even more than us. What is special about you? And the Hans says, you don't know what you are missing. That means you do not have an experience by which you can appreciate what you already have. And we can appreciate because we have seen the opposite of it. So there he's explaining the very purpose of this creation, the whole creation. The whole creation in all its forms generates an appreciation for a true home. Nothing else could generate that appreciation. So that is why it's a beautiful creation in totality. If you want to enjoy life, this life, mental life, sensory life, spiritual life, life of the soul, life of totality, see the whole show. You have the capability to see the whole show right here. It's only in a human body. You have that strange experience of free will. You have experience which makes you capable of seeking. Seeking is connected with free will. If you had no free will, you would never be able to seek. To seek is the secret. To seek the truth is a sign that you are on the right track. If you seek the total, you will wake up. And the arrangement for waking up is made by you already. It will happen. A perfect living master with the totality of awareness will appear in your life. You won't find him, but he'll appear. Why can't you find him? If he's so perfect, you should be able to find him. Because there are no signs of perfection of a person's inner awareness. You can never know the awareness of anybody. Therefore, the person who will be a perfect living master in your life, for you, generated by you earlier when you left your home, that only that human being will appear at the right time when you say, I am ready, I have had enough, I want to go home. It's your own method, it's your own arrangement. And only when you are ready. Supposing you say, I am still enjoying this world, no matter, little bad, good or bad, but I am still liking it, go on enjoying it. Such a person will not appear in your life. If you want simple help, say, I can't put up with my financial losses, I believe there are people who have got control over these things. You can find the gurus, you can find psychics, you can find people, they can temporarily help you. But if you feel, this is not my place, I am not wanting help in here, I want to get out back to my true home, that seeking when it comes, a perfect living master automatically will appear in your life by coincidence. He will wear no particular sign on his that I am a perfect living master. In fact, for certain I can tell you, he will never say he is a master. Why would he? He has not come to say something to establish here. He has come as a private arrangement on our call to appear and with that strange experience of love to pull us and bring us within our own self, not outside. What is strange about that love? If we associate that person more, what do we find? We find that that love is totally unconditional and non-judgmental. Such a person, when he comes into our life, he'll never judge how good or bad we are. He's not come in response to our karma. He's not come to look at our karma. He's come in response to the call of the soul to go back to its true home. His only interest is in the seeking that we are having inside. In fact, when he looks at our karma, he feels compassion. Look how terribly trapped they are in this very big maze of karma created around, which makes them perpetuate their living here. Such a person comes to pull us out of this. He does not have to wear any particular kind of garments, either saffron colored or white colored or black colored or no saffron or no. He doesn't have to do any of these things. He has to come just like a friend with unconditional love. The more we associate, we find there is no judgment in that. It's always love. If we show any love for that person, he loves us. If we show hatred for that person, he loves us. If we kill that person, he loves us. That's the kind of love from such a person, whom I call a perfect living master. So perfect living master comes only for love, and knowing love is the pull. But love is not the only pull. There's something else also in us that pulls. Something that tells us, gives us answers, but we don't want to listen to that. It's called gut feeling, intuition. Intuition, sudden feeling. This is not going to be right. This will happen. My mind has said, I have prepared my tickets to travel tomorrow. Something is telling me, don't go. Why? Everything is normal. Where is it coming from? My mind is saying, everything is okay. Don't go by this sudden feeling in you. And you say, no, something is telling me, I must cancel my trip. An intuitive feeling telling me, gut feeling telling me, something telling me inside, don't go. I'm not going. Next day I find an accident of the plane I was going. My gut feeling was right. My brain was wrong. My thinking was wrong. The mind operates only through thinking. And thinking is based upon the data you have in front of you. But the intuition is coming from the soul. Intuition is coming from your real self. Not only love comes from there, intuition comes from there. Appreciation of beauty comes from there. Many feelings we have, they come from there, from the soul. They're divided. In our consciousness, in our head, there are two types of functions going on, mental and spiritual. Mental functions are all connected with thinking and all take time. Even the smallest thought takes time. The spiritual functions are all non-time, instantaneous. Intuition, instantaneous. Love, instantaneous. Appreciation of beauty, instantaneous. All these are instantaneous experiences with no time lag. Big difference between the two. Mind generates time and space to operate, whereas soul does not need it. We have a spiritual will and a mental will both operating inside us. People say, how can we tell us a quick formula, they ask me, to improve our life here? And if there's another life, we'll also improve there. But let's try here. I say, quickest formula, develop your spiritual will. Your intuition will grow. So coincidences that help you what to do will grow. Your life will change. How do you develop spiritual will? When the mind says, do it, and something is saying no, mind says, do it, something is saying no, where's the no coming from? It has to be other than the mind, because mind is saying do it, something is saying no, you are saying no, the soul is saying no. Then why not develop the power to say no? I have suggested to my friends, learn to say no when the mind wants something the most. Not every day, not all the time, only 2-3 times a week. 2-3 times a week, learn to say no to the mind, your spiritual will increase. When it increases, you will find your life becomes spiritual. This life, physical life, becomes spiritual. Mind cannot deceive you. You will have the ability to say no. When the spiritual will grows in us, now, sometimes they call spiritual will, divine will, God's will. Some people say, live in God's will. What does it mean to live in God's will? To live in God's will means to live in the spiritual will, which is not mind's will. Any will that's coming in other than the mental will, your mind's will, is God's will. Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, in one of his Masnavis, takes up this case. He says, people ask me, live in the will of Allah, live in the will of God. And they say, isn't everything happening according to His will? How can we distinguish everything that happens is God's will? Then how are you saying live in God's will? Everything is God's will. He says no. When you use your thinking machine, it's mind's will. When you are not, it's God's will. And then he says, how to know God's will? He says, if he has given you a plow in your hand, dig, that's his will. He's given a pen in your hand, write, that's his will. If he has created circumstances for you to do certain things, to do your duties according to the circumstances, he has expressed his will. Even some of the old Indian systems of teaching how to live a divine life distinguished between karma and dharma. What was it? Karma laid down the conditions of your circumstances. Old karma brings those conditions. How to handle them? How to handle them with the duties to perform for dharma. So dharma was a duty to cope up with the karma coming from the past. If we do everything as if it is duty created by circumstances, we are living in the spiritual will, the divine will. Just following these little tips can change our life right here. I am sharing these things with you just because I feel you are all on spiritual path. You are all moving in the same direction. You all want to know better about your own self. You all want to have a spiritual life. You are all tired, according to my judgment, of this world and the tactics of the mind, what it's playing. Therefore, I am just sharing with you some of these things that I experienced by virtue of being just a disciple of a perfect living master. Everything I've shared with you is experiential, not from books, and not untested. So that is why I always believed when he said, experience, no scope on true spiritual path for blind faith. Don't have faith just because somebody said it. Have faith what you have experienced. Generate more experience. Supposing you have a limited experience, then believe what you experienced. But don't rule out that just because you haven't experienced something, it doesn't exist. People have more experiences, and be prepared to have more experience yourself. But the faith should be based upon your experience, and that faith will grow. We call it living faith. Like all living things, faith grows. Every day experience happens. Some experiences happen in meditation internally, and many experiences happen outside. They are also happening because of what is happening internally. Outside things change, and you are able to notice. Some things you notice that these could not have happened by the normal law of probability by which things happen here. And you sometimes, this is a miracle happening. Miracles start happening, more meditation, discovery of inner self, more miracles happen outside. So that is why the teachings of the great master, who was a perfect living master, is to develop your spiritual self and carry out your duties. Everything that you have to do outside is a duty cast upon you. Do it as a duty. Don't try to make things your own. Use them. Consider everything has been given to us by the Creator for use, not to make our own. Don't always try to say, this is mine. Say, it's mine for use. If you do these simple things, your life will change. Much for the better. People are all looking for happiness, and you see how much happiness can come merely by a few changes in life, little meditation to know more of yourself, little change in attitude outside, not trying to be possessive of things, not trying to make them your own, just using them very well, life changes. Thank you very much for very patiently listening to me today. There are some people who have asked for time to see me. Time is very limited. It was a only one-day program. Therefore, those I have been meeting again and again will have chance elsewhere to see me again and again. But some of you have never seen me before. I will certainly see those who have never seen me before. Thank you very much. So close your eyes and go back to the meditation chamber behind the eyes. Make sure you are there and no longer in any lower part of your body. That the lower part of your body is the lower part of the house in which you live. You are on the 6th floor behind the eyes. Push your chair backwards so it comes right to the center. Sit on it and relax. And await your master's appearance. Meantime, repeat the words of mantra. Slowly, very deliberately, so you can listen to it. Any sounds come, drop the repetition, listen to the sound. Sound becomes weak, just restart the repetition. If you can visualize the master, think of him. If you cannot, still talk to him. He's hiding behind the curtain in front of you. Still talk to him. Tell him what you feel. Tell him what you want to do. Express your love and devotion for your master. If he replies to your questions, repeat the 5 words of the Simran or any mantra you have to check it is the master's voice, master giving you the answer. If not, continue your conversation for the master behind the curtain. If you can see him, look at his eyes and forehead. If you can see the eyes and forehead, it is the master. While repeating Simran, if you see the eyes and forehead, it is the master himself there. Express your love and devotion. Tell your master whatever you want to tell. This is the best opportunity. Request for anything that you want. Say steady with any request that you have.